Everyone has dreamed at least once about time travel. Will humanity still exist a million years from now? What did dinosaurs that lived 100 million years ago really look like? Or, who ate the cake in the fridge yesterday? Time machines have appeared countless times in novels and movies, but as of now, they don't exist in reality. But is time travel really impossible? Or, in a future where science and technology have advanced, will traveling through time be an everyday thing? If you could actually go to the past or the future, what would be waiting for you there? Today, let's talk about what would happen if time travel were possible. I'll explain in more detail later, but there actually is a way to travel to the future. Depending on how you look at it, you could even say that you've already experienced time travel yourself. So, let's set the future aside for a moment and first consider whether it's possible to travel to the past. In 1988, physicist Kip Thorne, a leading researcher in relativity, and his students published a paper on how to travel to the past. You might think Kip Thorne is just telling tall tales, but he's the same scientist who succeeded in observing gravitational waves and won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2017. Now, according to Dr. Thorne's hypothesis, time travel would require the use of a wormhole. A wormhole literally means a worm-eaten hole. Imagine a caterpillar on the surface of an apple trying to get to the other side. Instead of crawling along the surface, if it goes through a tunnel inside the apple, it can reach the other side much faster. In the same way, if there are wormholes, tunnels in space, you could travel from one place to another in an extremely short time by passing through one. And in fact, wormholes do exist around us, but of course you've never seen one. Wormholes exist in the extremely tiny microscopic world. Atoms that make up matter are about 1/10 billionth of a meter in size, and wormholes are another trillionth of that, so small that not even an electron microscope could see them. Dr. Thorne proposed the idea of injecting negative energy into these ultra-microscopic wormholes to expand them. Negative energy has the opposite properties of gravity and creates a repulsive force that pushes things apart. Thanks to Einstein's discoveries, we know that a huge amount of this negative energy exists in space. If negative energy could be placed inside a tiny wormhole, it could be expanded into a massive tunnel. If you could create such a giant wormhole, you would fix the entrance in place and move the exit at nearly the speed of light. In that case, time near the exit would flow more slowly than at the entrance. For example, while it might be 6 p.m. at the entrance, it could still be only 4 p.m. at the exit, where time is flowing slower. This is how you could complete a time slip into the past. However, in reality, we can't use negative energy just yet. That's because we don't even know what it really is. Plus, we obviously don't have the technology to move the exit of a wormhole at nearly the speed of light. As a side note, there are people on social media who claim to be time travelers from 2058. It's hard to believe that such incredible technology would be developed just 37 years from now, but maybe they bought a special suit or something. Even if it were technically possible to go to the past, would there be any problems if you actually did? Of course, there would. One famous example is the grandfather paradox. Suppose you went back in time and killed your own parent before you were born. Without your parent, you would never have been born. But if you were never born, then you couldn't have traveled back in time to kill your parent. In other words, the reason for your parent's death disappears, so your parent lives on. This doesn't make sense. In other words, if you travel to the past, it creates a huge contradiction where two or more versions of the present can exist. Some people have proposed the hypothesis that there are multiple parallel worlds to solve this problem. To sum up, traveling to the past is not only full of technical challenges, but we don't even know if it's possible at all. So, enough about the past. Let's talk about traveling to the future. Traveling to the future is actually very simple. All you have to do is move really fast. Let me explain. Einstein's theory of special relativity is based on the postulate that the speed of light is constant. This means that the speed of light in a vacuum is always the same, no matter what frame of reference you're in. For example, imagine you're on a spaceship traveling at 99% the speed of light, and you shine a light in the opposite direction. If someone is watching from outside the spaceship, you might think that the light inside the ship would move slowly. But that's not the case. The answer is no. This is where the principle of the constancy of the speed of light comes in. The speed of light is always the same, no matter where you observe it from. The difference that arises is in the flow of time itself. Einstein proposed that instead of the speed of light changing, it's time itself that changes, depending on your frame of reference. In other words, the faster you move, the more slowly time passes for you. For example, if you spent 1 year on a spaceship traveling at 99% the speed of light, 7 years would pass on Earth. If your spaceship's speed got even closer to the speed of light, time would barely move for you compared to people on Earth. Theoretically, you could return to Earth alive 100 or even 1,000 years in the future. So what about high-speed trains that travel over 300 kilometers per hour? Is there a time difference between someone standing on the ground and someone riding the train? The answer is, surprisingly, yes. If you ride a high-speed train at 300 kilometers per hour from one city to another, you would arrive a billionth of a second further into the future than someone who stayed behind. We are, in fact, doing a tiny bit of time travel in our everyday lives. Now, I'd like to end here. But for those who want to go back to the past, not the future, here's one special method. Get on a plane and cross the international date line. You can go back to yesterday, just kidding. That's all for Curiosity Science. See you next time.